Good afternoon and welcome to the 2013 Reebok CrossFit Games. We had 20 of the fittest men on earth go in the first two heats of 3, and now it is the women's turn. I'm Chase Ingham alongside the 2009 CrossFit Games champ Tanya Wagner, and here are your standings for the day. After 10 scored events, we have 2 right here coming up. Samantha Briggs stands on top of the leaderboard with a near 70-point cushion on second place. We have a 2-part event for this women's finale, and it's gonna start with Cinco number 1.
We have 5 deadlifts at 265 pounds, followed by 5 weighted one-legged squats. They have to do 5 on each leg, right and left, and then they have to do an 80-foot handstand walk.
Now, Marin had talked about earlier the weights for this movement, 265. 2008, the men were doing deadlifts at 275. It's amazing how far we've come. Now, after that, we've got a second part, Cinco number 2.
Cinco number 2 is following up with 5 muscle-ups into 5 deficit handstand push-ups, about 9 inches on the deficit. And then they're taking a 100-pound axle bar over their head, and they're doing walking lunges for that 90 feet.
So those are your 2 scored events for this females finale. We're gonna start with our first heat. 10 athletes will be coming out on the floor to see who would be crowned the fittest on earth in this final women's event.
All right, CrossFit, make some noise in lane 1. From CrossFit, Bolt Cassidy Lance. In lane 2, from CrossFit, White Horse, Aaron Light. In lane 3, from Diablo CrossFit, Marco Alvarez. In lane 4, from CrossFit St. Paul, Deborah Gardner-Carson. In lane 5, from CrossFit Brossard, Camille LeBlanc-Bassinet. In lane 6, from Maple Valley CrossFit, Emily Carruthers. In lane 7, from Champlain Valley CrossFit, Danielle Horan. In lane 8, from the training room, Emily Friedman. In lane 9, from CrossFit Neville, Lindy Wall. And in lane 10, from CrossFit Venture, Natalie McLean.
Your top 10, your 10 females here in heat number 1 are on the floor and getting set to go. Here are your lane assignments. Top athletes in lane 6, circling out from there, Camille LeBlanc-Bassinet, one of the fan favorites, as well as Deborah Gardner-Carson in lane number 4, but we're looking at Bassinet for this event.
She is one of 2 veteran athletes in this event, and I am telling you, keep your eye on her. We know she has strength. She also has a lot of coordination and balance. I bet her smile was pretty big when she heard this announcement for these 2 final events. She loves handstand walking and loves handstand push-ups.
1 lane over, Danielle Horan. She got first place in the Northeast. We actually got to watch her compete live. She's a very good contender here.
And she's a strong rookie. She trained with Champlain Valley CrossFit on their games team last year. And this is her first year as a rookie, proving she can be with the best.
Cinco number 1 is on their way, and the ladies are ready to take the floor. 5 deadlifts at, pause, 265 pounds.
This is ridiculous. It is the heaviest given weight in a deadlift event at the games or any regional that we've had so far, other than a deadlift ladder.
coming out, making quick work right there. Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet is now on her pistols in a very unique way to hold the kettlebell. She's actually holding it behind her neck.
The athletes are holding a 1-pound kettlebell, which weighs approximately 35 pounds, and it is up to them how they want to hold that kettlebell. All the athlete has to do is lower their hip crease below their knee while squatting on that one leg and not allowing the other leg to touch the ground. Here is one way you can choose to hold it is at your waist like Camille is, or at your chest. Notice she's holding it on the side of the leg that she is squatting on. That's a smart strategy. It helps to keep your balance on that side. It does put all the weight on that side and that leg. So this is a good demonstration of strength in that right quad as well as balance.
Danielle Horan on the right side of your screen is your current leader so far. She's already done with her second round of 265 deadlifts for 5 total reps. And moving on to her 5 pistols. Now we've seen pistols in regional events before. Typically it's been alternating. You do one leg, your other leg gets a break. This is the first time maybe we've seen pistols done on the same leg for multiple reps, but weighted pistols. And the weight is a 35-pound, well, I would say kettlebell. That's a demon bell right there. Those things are sweet.
And that weight does add that element of strength. It's not just balancing your own body weight, but it is a lot more strength and technique in that movement as soon as you add weight to it.
Past the 2-minute mark, there's a 7-minute cap on this event. Once they're done with 3 rounds of the deadlifts and single leg pistols, they're going to make their way down the length of the black mat. It's 80 feet from where they'll finish their last round of deads and pistols, and they'll have to walk on their hands all the way down to finish under the cap of 7 minutes.
Danielle Horan, one of our rookies, proved that she can hang here with the best, nice and strong. She's holding on to that weight. She's going to straight set her last set of 5. And here we have Natalie McLean.
Natalie McLean last night killed that pull-up workout. Pull-ups for days, unbroken for nearly 3 sets, but she has yet to do 1 deadlift.
That is a bodyweight movement, pull-ups, and right now we are seeing strength. The CrossFit Games is the ultimate test of fitness. You need to have everything. 265 is just so hard. You can see how she's wrenching her neck, she's arching her back. She needs to keep her core stable and tight. She's getting upset. It's very understandable. She made it to the last day, the final event. That is what many of these women want to get to.
Natalie McLean has yet to do 1 single rep. You can see her fans and her teammates cheering her on from her affiliate, trying to give her as much help and encouragement as possible, but there's just sometimes where the weight is just too heavy to move.
It would be one heck of a PR if she does get this weight and she would make that lift, but it is hard in competition. 3rd day, she's fatigued and she is a rookie.
Danielle Horan is done with her 3 rounds. She has 3 minutes left at this time cap. They're just at 4 minutes to make her way down the mats. It's 80 feet, walking on her hands. Now, we see she's wearing gloves. A few guys in the previous heats, these mats are black. It is a high part of the sun right now, and they are cooking. So it was very important. You saw some guys looking at their hands because that mat just burned them up.
Yeah, it's a great point, but also remember, they've done a lot with their hands on barbells, on barbells, on the rig, on pull-up bars, as well as on the rope. So a lot of these athletes also have injuries, and they have tears and rips to their hands as well.
Danielle Horan at 4:30. She's about 10 feet away from the edge of the mat. When she crosses, she'll have to run across the time pad for the stop.
But look who's chasing her.
Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet is now coming in second, but it was too late. Danielle Horan will take first in this heat, unofficial time, 4:46.
Walking like that, Camille LeBlanc loves handstand walks, like I said. She was a gymnast for 13 years, starting at the age of 4.
Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet will take second in this heat. This is just heat 1 of 3. And Deborah Corner-Carson also making her way down the mats.
Not only is advantageous to finish first because you get more points. It pushes you up the leaderboard, but you get a longer rest before going into those muscle-ups and deficit handstand push-ups.
We've seen a lot of athletes not finish this first event, Cinco number 1. There's a 7-minute cap.
Very graceful. Yes, that was that
I don't fall like that.
athleticism.
We have 90 seconds until we hit the cap, and to your point, there's only going to be a 60-second break between event number 1 and event number 2. So it's very important that these athletes finish, not well just for placement, but finish so they can get a little bit more rest going into the second event.
If you don't get that breather, that second event is going to feel even worse than it already will.
There is just under 60 seconds left to go, and only 3 women have finished this event. Margot Alvarez now making her way down. She has 45 seconds. She's just past the halfway mark. She has 40 feet to go. She's having a little bit of a struggle here. Now walking on her hands and a lot of misses, that's going to come into play in the next event.
It will, but you know what, Chase, this movement is not easy. And just because the first 3 athletes just walked right out like it was no big deal, this is a movement, it's a skill. You need to practice this. If you don't have handstand walks, you're not all of a sudden going to be able to walk like you saw Danielle Horan or Camila Blanc-Bezenet. You can't just do that on the fly. It's an element of training. We've seen it before in the CrossFit Games 2011. We're seeing it again, and you know, usually, Chase, when people see these athletes, see these movements in previous games, they work on them.
That will do it. The 7-minute cap is reached, and only 3 women in the first heat ended up finishing Cinco number 1. Now we're going to take a 60-second break and reset. We're moving on. Your top 3 from this heat: Danielle Horan, 446, Camille LeBlanc, 503, and Deborah Corner-Carson rounding out top 3. Danielle Horan started off very strong, the only female to go touch and go here at the beginning, and then making quick work of these single leg pistols.
Nice strong finish on the handstand walk. Even though Camille LeBlanc-Bezenet was breathing down her neck, she stayed strong and stayed focused.
Well, event number 1, Cinco 1, is done in this final women's event, and we're 10 seconds out from the second one, Cinco number 2. The women will make their way up to the rings. Now, there was no minimum work requirement in event number 1, so Natalie McLean, even though she didn't get a single deadlift rep, is still allowed to come forward and continue. So here's what we're looking at: 5 bar muscle ups, or 5 ring muscle ups into 5 deficit handstand push-ups for 3 rounds, and then an overhead carry of 90 feet.
Here we have Camille Blanc-Bezenet. I told you she likes handstand push-ups. She has these deficit handstand push-ups, which wreaked havoc on the athletes last year when they had them. But Camille, very happy, always happy to see them, and probably is even happier for the deficit because she knows it's just going to hurt her competitors.
Camille LeBlanc-Bezenet took second in the previous event, Cinco number 1. She is now making her way through the second round of ring muscle-ups and making it look very easy indeed.
She just crushed those handstand push-ups, went unbroken, and got right back to those rings. She may be one of the only athletes to finish this event in that 7-minute time cap.
So on the men's event, only a handful of men actually completed this. The 7-minute cap is very short for these type of movements. We proved that the hardest part, you know, deficit handstand push-ups was a challenge last year. A lot of people started training those just in case this came up. But the overhead walking lunge with the fat bar, definitely something we don't just see every day in our program.
No, we saw the front rack positioning for the lunges in regionals, but now that overhead, again, it smokes the shoulders. These athletes, it's been relentless on their shoulders. They've had bar muscle-ups, swimming, log carries, thrusters, jerks, overhead squats, snatches, and burpees this morning.
Camille LeBlanc-Bezenet still in first place, but she is slowly being chased down by Deborah Corner-Carson. Your top 3 ladies are in the center. Camille LeBlanc is in lane 5, Carson 4. And coming up next is Emily Carruthers. She had a great showing in the legless rope climb, so no surprise here. She's decent at the muscle-ups as well. But it's still Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet in the center of your screen, making your way into the third and final part of the 5 muscle-ups and handstand push-ups.
Last year, Camille was able to show us she could still pull at the end of the games. It was the final day, final event of Fran with pull-ups and thrusters. Her pull-ups, she went unbroken on all the pull-ups. She still has that pulling strength here. Last day, some of the other women, I'm sure they're happy to see it's regular muscle-ups, nothing fancy, no weighted muscle-ups. But for Camille, she's still able to rip through these at her normal speed.
Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet is done with her 3rd set of muscle-ups, now moving into her 5 deficit handstand push-ups. She had a few no reps in the last round with the feet coming off the top. She's got to be sure she doesn't have any misses here. We're 3 minutes in. We have 4 minutes until that 7-minute time cap.
When your feet start to come off the wall, it's because your core just cannot hold that tightness and stay locked down. She just did a ton of deadlifts at 265. Her core was definitely affected by those as well as the handstand walking. So there's no surprise your core's taxed. McLean there looking at the rings.
McLean in outside on lane number 10. We saw previously in Cinco number 1, didn't get a single deadlift at 265. You saw she's failing a muscle-up. It's a surprise how well she did yesterday in the 2007 event. And Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet is now done, and she has 3 minutes to make her way 90 feet with an 100-pound fat bar with an overhead lunge to be the first woman to finish Cinco number 2.
Watch her core and her shoulders. There is a lot of stability that's needed here in this movement. She has a really rather narrow grip. I'm surprised she's not going a little wider with her grip. If you go wider with your grip, you can allow the bar to travel behind you just slightly. So as you lunge and your torso comes forward, that barbell stays over the center of your body.
Now, a rule here that was discussed in the athlete briefing is that the athletes can clean the bar to the front rack position, which just means holding it in the front of your shoulders. They're not allowed to put it behind the neck to help get that bar overhead. So that might explain why her grip is so narrow, because that might be a more comfortable position for her to put that bar overhead.
It is a fat bar that she is using, that they're going to use this axle bar. It's a thicker bar. It's a little more awkward to take off the ground and to clean up to your shoulders, as well as hold overhead with that grip.
2 minutes left until we reach the time cap. Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet is nearly halfway through these walking lunges. She had nearly 4 minutes to make her way down. She can't afford many more drops because just being able to get that bar up to the shoulder and overhead is taxing enough.
We remember how many drops we saw at the regional level when the women just had to hold that weight on their rack position, on their front rack. Now overhead, it just takes that much more lung capacity. They're breathing so hard. This is the heaviest overhead lunge we've seen. In 2009, that overhead finish for the final event at the games was a 25-pound plate, and I still have nightmares anytime I lunge with overhead weight. I cannot imagine how that feels right now.
Well, we have a 25-pound plate on the side of each part of that barbell, and this weight is overhead, and Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet, with the crowd behind her, willing her to finish. She has 60 seconds to get down to the edge of that mat. She's close. She can't afford one more drop. She's going to have to take her time, make sure she's set, make one more charge to the finish line. She has 45 seconds to get under the 7-minute time cap. Danielle Horan and Deborah Corner-Carson are in tow, but no one is going to catch this woman right here. Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet, 30 seconds now and about 10 feet.
She sees that end line and she just couldn't get it there.
Here comes Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet. The crowd is cheering for her to make it home. And she will do it. Finishing with an unofficial time, 6:47, just under that 7-minute time cap. Camille putting on an amazing performance here in Cinco number 2, just behind on number 1, being the only female to complete this event so far. We'll have to see how this holds up in the later heats. We know this will be a challenge for a lot of females, but Camille LeBlanc showing her capacity for those body weight movements really paid off for her.
She has the strength, she has the technique, and she was able to show everyone that in both of these final events.
Heat run results for Cinco number 2, Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet, the only one to finish. And here we see those deficit handstand push-ups posing to be no problem for Camille.
Other women in her heat didn't feel the same way, but she was also able to string together her muscle-ups in typical fashion that we're used to seeing. We saw some little instability, little shakiness with that 100 pounds overhead. That was the slowest we've seen her move in both of these final events. But that's more like the Camille we're used to seeing. That is more what her fans expected to see throughout the games. It was a great finish to a maybe not so great start to the games for her.
Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet finishing off day number 4 very well in the sprint chipper and the finale tonight for Cinco 1 and Cinco number 2. Heat 1 is done. We have 2 more coming up. Next, we have heat number 2. These will be our next 10 ladies here. Tanya, some big names in this next heat.
We have some